Welcome to Radio Dead Air Tech Q&A. You've got questions, we've got guesses. I'm Nash. With me as always, my producer, Mike Gehrman. Also in tech, we are taking your tech questions. If you have something you need help with, send it to request@radiodeadair.com. We will assist you. And man, oh man, yesterday was fun. Well, I say fun. Fun's not fun. It's not been fun at all for a few days. We would have been here last night, but the minute I was actually trying to switch over to do tech Q&A, my internet went out. And it wasn't just me, it was everyone who was on my ISP in all of Charleston. And
did the ISP lose power? What happened?
Well, I'm not entirely sure, but I'm assuming it's a side effect of Helene, because a lot of fiber optic cables run through upstate South Carolina. And we've happened before. People have accidentally severed those cables and took out, a few years back, someone did that and took out everybody in Charleston. I'm figuring that somebody did something like that in the course of cleaning up, or something got damaged yesterday that wasn't damaged in the initial flooding and whatnot. But
or something just got overloaded with rerouting.
Yeah, whatever happened, we were out until early this morning. So sorry. But we are here tonight. I'm fortunate we did get internet back, or I don't know how you get it's fortunate that anyone has internet these days. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Not too bad.
Well, we're doing better than Intel, that's for sure. It has just been, with Intel, it has been hit after hit after hit.
And when we say hit here, we're not talking about like a music hit. We're talking about them getting punched in the face.
A lot. It's first it was well, all right, if we really want to go back far enough, they've been losing server market share to AMD for a while now.
Yes, because AMD makes better stuff less expensive, or at least equal stuff less expensive.
Mainly, they've been making things more power efficient, way more power efficient,
which is a big deal when you're running a network center.
Yeah, so there's been that. They've obviously been losing it in the gaming space, because for literally the past 3-4 years, ever since the
they've made their stuff stupid expensive to the point of unaffordability.
Yeah, the 7800X3D, when did it come out?
Oh wait, I'm sorry. I was thinking NVIDIA. No, Intel. Yeah, Intel's been not doing great in the video market either.
Well, I'm talking in general. When did the 7800X3D? Ever since the 7800X3D came out, Intel has not been able to come up with a CPU that's faster than it. And what's really problematic about that is that's not even in AMD's top of the line, most expensive CPU. Yeah. And Intel's top of the line, most expensive CPU is no longer the fastest gaming CPU. They've had tons of other problems. Their manufacturing processes have been unable to continue with die shrinks and smaller lithography. They have, business-wise, they're a mess. They've been losing the price of the market. And now, little cherry on top, this is really wow. Intel has lost all of the GPU market share that it has managed to gain since it released the Arc GPUs. In case if you haven't been following along, and apparently not enough people are following along, Intel re-entered the discrete GPU market back in 2021 with Intel Arc.
They've been naming them after various things. So there's Alchemist, I forget what, Battlemage, and
that's not out yet. That's not out yet.
Yes.
Only one out has been out. That's another thing. The only one that's come out so far is Alchemist since 2021. It's 2024.
And it was disappointing on release and got better, but getting better after release is a standard in tech as they modify the drivers and go, oh, look, Larry was right about this code branch. Turns out we shouldn't do it that way. Okay.
Well, is it the fastest GPU on the market? No. Is it the cheapest GPU on the market? Also, no.
No.
Is it a good GPU? Well, they managed to, gain about 4% market share. And that was they rapidly worked to improve the drivers, but when they at release, they were really terrible. They couldn't do older games well. Their Direct 9, Direct 3D 9 support was terrible. They've come a long way in improving that. But generally they were that slight unreliability and the fact they weren't rock bottom prices, although they were cheap and they got cheaper. That meant that even used NVIDIA or AMD GPUs were considered a better, safer bet. Now, there is one thing.
Indeed.
Now, they went from 4% market share to 2% market share to, as of right now, 0% market share. That means not enough people are buying them to be an appreciable number of people actually using them.
Yeah, and these stats are pulled from various sources. For example, if you have Steam can report back some of your hardware configurations, and it goes, Alchemist, no, we've not heard of that.
That is very bad. See, Alchemist being imperfect on release was kind of to be expected.
Yep.
But what could have saved it if Intel had come out and said, oh yeah, we're going to subsidize these suckers. You want to buy one of these? Great. It's going to be super cheap and we'll just sort of make sure it works. That's how you build market share when you're starting. Intel had this, Intel, and they still thought that their name had some cash to it. And that alone justified whatever price you paid for these. Talking about the literally only use case for Arc GPUs right now is they are powerful video encoder cards. Very good. They have AV1 encoding. They have all sorts of video encoding. They're great for putting in to your computer alongside a different GPU simply for dedicated encoding. And if you're going to do that, all you need is the cheapest entry level, the A310, the cheapest entry level one. It can't game, but it's really good for video encoding. That's not where you want to be when you're trying to take market share from the gaming stuff. The concern here's the problem. Having Intel re-enter the market, especially around 2020 and 2021 when the crypto boom was at its height, the hope was Intel providing something functional and good at a decent price would influence both NVIDIA and AMD to start lowering their prices.
This did not happen.
No. First of all, they were very late to market. So by the time they were actually putting these cards on shelves, the crypto bust had already hit. and card prices were coming down. So they were already missed that boat by a lot. Now the fact that they're not achieving market share and that they are Intel's in dire straits. They're at this point where they're cutting every project that doesn't even have a hint of profitability. Now, they've claimed publicly that they're in it for the long haul. They're actually going to do this. Battlemage is slated to be released soon. That's going to be the next generation of ARC GPUs. But
who knows? They may surprise us and come out with something that it just comes out because this is its niche, and it's a solid lock in that niche. I won't be surprised if they don't do that,
but yeah, Intel's losing its fabrication. That's a big money drain on them, which used to be their biggest strength. That they were the last chip maker that actually made their own chips instead of just designing them. They're in bad shape. And the worry here is that Intel is going to flail around and in a panic pull the plug, and then there won't be that ARC will just be dead in the water. Because Optane, that's another one of those Intel projects that was like, this is good. How much you charging for it? You're kidding, right? Optane, Intel's Optane, which you might have heard the name before. They were Intel's rapid storage SSDs, quite simply the best in the industry. However, they were proprietary and they were way more expensive for what they did, which when we're talking about enterprise, having the fastest is not the most desirable thing in enterprise. In gaming, it is. But in enterprise, you want good enough to get the job done. And regular M.2 SSDs, way and above good enough to get the job done. Even SATA SSDs were good enough to get the job done. The Optane SSDs, they were super fast. They were also way too expensive. That's kind of a through line with Intel. Except now they're not the fastest anymore. So, in any event, we're going to have to keep an eye on this. We don't know if Battlemage is actually going to be released. We don't know anything until it's actually released.
Yeah, it was supposed to be released second half of this year.
Yeah.
Note that we are rapidly running out of second half of this year. So now it's looking like an early first quarter 2025 release.
Yeah. Speaking of first quarter 2025, which is when this is looking like it's going to come out, we got another spec leak for the RTX 5090.
Which you won't be able to afford.
And 5080. No, you won't be able to afford.
Which you also probably won't be able to afford.
Now, here's part of why. One of the first things people noted is, based on core count, power, and RAM, the 5090 is going to be at least twice as fast as the 5080. Notice why I didn't say the 4090, I said the 5080. That means the Halo product is effectively going to be 2 of their next fastest card.
It's also looking at 600 watts.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's too many. That's too many watts. That's too many. The 5080 is looking at 400 watts.
Which is still ridiculous, but not as ridiculous.
Well, considering that the 4080, the current 4080 is 320 watts, the 5080 being 400 watts is a bit of a bump. Yeah. They're also saying that despite it being 600 watt TDP, the 5090 is still going to be a dual slot cooler. We don't know how they're going to pull that off.
Well, no, because they're going to have to pull it off with inbuilt. It's just every single one of them is going to be liquid cooled.
I mean, maybe at that price, who cares? But the 5080 is probably going to be a little bit faster. Not a lot, but a little bit faster than the 4090. Oh, yeah, and the 5090 is going to have 32 gigs of GDDR7 with a 512-bit memory bus.
We should note, well, this is a leak and is not confirmed. The person who is doing the leaking has a pretty good rep as to being right.
So the 5080 is going to be the same. The 5080 is not going to be a much of a revolution because it's going to be about the same RAM as the 4080, another 16 gigs on the 5080. In general, I don't even know if Intel cares if they sell any of these. Really, I'm not sure if they even give a crap if they sell a single one of these cards. Because typically each generation the prices were supposed to come down, but with Intel they've been consistently going up, price to performance comparison. And considering AMD is abandoning the high-end market for GPUs, they're going to focus on mid-range and lower with their next generation. Intel is free. I mean, NVIDIA is free to charge whatever they want. And I don't know if they're even going to care about if they sell a single one of these damn things. Because if
they'll sell enough to legitimately try to claim the best in the business again. But no, the big reason for the probably $2,000 price point is what I'm agreeing with the article on, is to tell people, yeah, this is what you could get if you could afford it and you had enough power supply. But here's this 1200 one. Looks really affordable in comparison.
Yeah, the 5080 is probably going to be about 1200, which that's not, I mean, considering right now you have to spend $1,800 to get a 4090. The idea of spending $1,200 for 4090 performance doesn't sound quite so bad, except if you can actually buy one, because there's no idea of how many of these NVIDIA is actually going to make. I keep saying Intel. They're acting like Intel of old. Considering that the fabrication space.
What I think NVIDIA really needs to do with the next generation, I think it's too late for RTX 5000 series, but for the 6000 series, what they really need to do is look at getting this power under control. Don't just throw more power at it to get more results at it. Take what you have and make it use significantly less power.
I've noticed that efficiency has not been a huge concern
it should be.
When they don't have competition. They don't really care very much about overall efficiency, because what are you going to do? What else are you going to buy? There is literally nothing on earth that can touch the 4090 right now. When the 5090 comes out, we don't even know. So it's sad,
but
because
what good is being top of the heap when no one can afford your product?
They don't care. They're selling all these stupid AI cards. And that's not a bubble, Mike. That's going to last forever. They're going to sell billions of dollars of AI cards every year until forever. And they're just going to keep growing and growing.
Nash, if you don't get help at Charter, get help somewhere.
They're never going to stop. That's how businesses work, Mike. They're never going to stop growing. And the shareholders are never going to sell, because they're never going to stop growing. They just keep buying shares. That's what matters here. So this is going to be fine. I don't know what. It's fine. This is fine. This is absolutely fine.
Segueing to AI really quickly, it's not one of our stories. You saw that most of Sam Altman's board quit, right?
Yeah, that's a fuck of a thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and he's still seeking, what was it, 100 billion in funding?
150. Another, they have, well, not 150 billion in funding. They have a valuation of OpenAI as 150 billion, so they can get another 6 billion in funding.
So because all his board, or most of his board, I can't say all his board, I don't think it was all, I think like 2 people did. I'm expecting within the next 6 months for the lawsuits to be flying at OpenAI and Sam Altman specifically.
Well, the reason why, like the claimed reason why, at least in the media, is that OpenAI is stepping away from its non-profit thing, which it was never going to.
Yeah, because Altman wants to cash out before the bubble bursts.
Right. It's a scam, and like the people at OpenAI came in like, we're going to direct the AI of the future, and we're going to have robots, and they're going to be good, and they're going to have the 3 laws, and fucking Altman's over here like, yeah, just grab the fucking money and run.
The other Sam tried that. Didn't work well for him. He's in jail.
He's in jail, yes. Finally.
Hi, Sam. I'm in jail.
I like it here. It's nice. Speaking of taking the money and run, AMD has had a bad go of it. This launch of their 9000 series CPUs, the sales have been almost as bad as Bulldozer.
Yeah. And that's because the performance hasn't been there.
No, I mean, if you were trying to sell to, like we just said, you're trying to sell to enterprise, energy efficiency is a big selling point. They like that. If you're trying to sell to video gamers, they could give a crap. They want it to be faster. So looks like the release of the 9800 X3D has been bumped up to about the end of October, which is less than a month away.
Yeah. With a full release in November.
Well, we say full release because they're only releasing the 9800 X3D, which is the 8-core, 16-thread version. The 9950 and the 9900 X3D are going to be coming after. Now, the reason why is those two, compared to the 7950 X3D and the 7900 X3D, have historically had problems.
Indeed.
The reason why is the way the X3D CPUs work, there are 2 CCDs, core chiplet parts. One of in the 9800 X3D, there's only one. It's 8-core, 16-thread, and they stack the 3D the 3D RAM on top of that. Boom, you're done. It's trickier with the 9900 and the 12-core and the 16-core parts because those have 2 CCDs, but only one of them gets the extra 3D RAM V-cache. That causes issues with video games because one of those core, in order to get that faster speed, the video game needs to only talk to the core with the extra 3D RAM. The one that doesn't have it, however, can get in the way. And because both cores can access the RAM, but the one that doesn't have it actually stacked on top has to go through the Infinity Fabric. That's the substrate layer that connects the 2 chiplets together. And because of that, there's a latency that throws off any advantage to having the X3D RAM, I mean the 3D RAM in the first place. So they have been struggling and still kind of they're better, but they're kind of goofier. They've been struggling with the 7000 series to get one of those CCDs not to do game stuff while the game is running, and it's called core parking. And they've been struggling to get that to behave correctly. Meanwhile, because the 7800X3D only has one core, it's never had a problem. That's why it's typically the fastest one. So, well, it's not the fastest. Technically, the 7950X3D is the technically, but the 7800X3D has the least problems and it's the most affordable. Well, anyway, I think AMD is fully aware that they need to sell some shit before the end of the quarter, and they were likely going to be holding these back until January, with CEC out in Vegas and whatnot. CES, not CEC, CES, Consumer Electronics Show. That's what they did with the 7800X3D. But I don't think they can wait that long, and they probably don't think they can wait that long because they aren't selling stuff very much. I'm not sure how much of a game changer the 9800X3D is really going to be, however, is the thing.
Well, I get a lot of it, as we said throughout this episode, a lot of it is going to depend on the price point.
Price, well, not just the price point, performance point as well, because if it's 9800X3D is not appreciably faster than the 7800X3D, there's no point to it. People will just get the 7800X3D until they stop making it.
I'll say unless the price is the same, in which case someone will go, yeah, no, I'll get the newer one.
I don't think the price is going to be the same, though.
I don't think. I mean, there's a certain range where people will look at it and go, that's close enough.
They've also, the rumor is there's going to, because there have been some efficiency gains with the 9000 series, that they're able to run this one with a little bit more headroom. They'll be able to clock it higher, that's been the limiting factor of the X3D CPUs. Because of that stacked 3D RAM, it's harder to cool. Right. You can't run them as hot as the regular Ryzen CPUs because it would screw up the RAM. It doesn't work. So with a newer iteration of the CPUs, they might be able to run these a little bit faster, a little bit more higher clock speed, and it will actually be fast because the 7800X3D already has that it's hobbled that way. This will actually be faster. Potentially, because it can clock higher. They've even talked about unlocking these to let people overclock them, which okie dokie, but these are I'm pretty sure these are going to be easier to burn the hell out, which that's going to be on you if you mess with it. But
indeed.
So yeah, nobody's in a really good place right now. Except NVIDIA's making money hand over fist, but I would say gaming's not in a very good place right now. Who can afford it? Who could freaking afford the new crap? It's all bad.
Not a lot of people.
It's all bad. All right. Well, that's the news for this week. Let's get to your questions. If you've got them, you can send those to requests@radiodeadair.com. Let's see what we got so far this week. First one comes from Butterball. Writes in, hey there, Nash, Mike, and ever-growing army of floofs. I've been trying to make back. Yes, mine. I've been trying to make backups of my DVD movies and TV shows with Handbrake, but I keep getting this message file, and you got pictures of it. Let's see. There's pictures. This picture. Can you just give me the picture? Give me picture. Give me danger. There we go. Okay. Open picture. Here we go. Put picture over here. And poopa. So yeah, got no valid source or titles found. Sometimes Handbrake will show some tracks to record, but it's some of the same program based on time. I've looked at DVDs I've already successfully recorded on my earlier versions of Handbrake, and they still load fine. I guess what I'm wondering is whether my DVDs are too old to be supported by modern Handbrake, I'm missing a setting, or if this is DRM, do not pass go. Also, the DVDs themselves are tested and played fine, so I don't think do scratches on the disc. Yeah, this is likely a DRM thing.
Yeah, agreed. Unless there's some weird codec on there that Handbrake just doesn't have yet, I have to go with DRM, do not pass go.
Yeah, it's this DVDs. A DVD is not a DVD is not a DVD. The main issue with DVDs, aside from their relatively flimsy DRM that's on there, is region coding. This is where they get you. And this is not even a problem with the DVDs themselves, as it is DVD hardware. DVD players have, unless you manage to get a regionless or a special one that doesn't care about region, for the longest time they were required to be hard coded to a given region in the world. And they did this to ensure that if you went to, say, Japan or
if you went somewhere where their product wasn't necessarily licensed, so you could get it cheaper, or just because they didn't want to bring it over to your region, that you couldn't use it.
Well, and not even just because it's cheaper. It's a matter of they technically didn't have the rights to be distributing that DVD in a different region. There would be region locking. The DVD would have a region imprinted into it. That's just you can actually get around. That's just software. You get around that. But the DVD players, this is the tricky part, would be hard coded so that the DVD would only play on a DVD player from a specific region. Now, some people some
DVD players let you reset the region a finite number of times. For example, if you were in region 1, which I can't remember if that included Canada or not. Let's just say for a second that it didn't. And you moved across the border.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you moved across the border, but the power was still the same. So you could still use all your same electronics. You could go, hey, no, I just moved. I didn't need to rebuy everything. Just tell it, no, I'm in Canada now.
Some DVD players, considering the years have gone by and DVD is pretty much a obsolete format, some DVD players are region free and they don't care. Now, The tricky part is, number one, finding one of those. And number two, some Handbrake might not be behaving quite so well with that. It's not a DRM in the strictest sense, because DVD does have a digital rights management, and it's been broken for years. It's been cracked wide open because there was the encryption keys. Once they got out, they were out. That was it.
Yeah,
it was done.
I used to, in fact, own the T-shirt that had the code for it on there, because a lot of the companies were very, you can't share this, and so someone printed it on T-shirts, and suddenly that became a First Amendment issue, and they couldn't stop it.
I want to point out, it wasn't just codes; it was code singular. That was the hitching point. There weren't multiple codes. There weren't that you had to know to get through. There was one code you had to crack. And once you did, DVDs were wide the flip open. There's no way to put that genie back in the bottle because they were all protected by that same encryption code. So once that was done, it's gone. There is effectively no encryption on DVDs. So that's not the DRM issue here. I'm pretty sure it's a region issue, and that's one of those they don't want to help you fix. Even now, they're all like, no, you can't do that. And we're all sitting here looking like, man, no one's using these damn things anymore. What the hell's wrong with you? You can't do that. You're not even selling DVDs anymore. We're on Blu-ray. Even if we're not doing streaming, you're using Why the hell do you can't do that? So, It's probably, I'm going to say, fair bet this is a regional thing. You could try, depending on, you don't mention which titles they are. If we're taught, you could try to find a drive from the appropriate region, a USB drive or something, to be able to read these properly, and maybe Handbrake will be able to handle it. I don't know. That's my best guess given on the errors you've shown us here. So, I'm not sure there's a good way. Yeah, because again, because it's hard coded, but because it's hardware based, getting around it's tricky. So, yeah. Anyway, next up. All right. It's from Danny R. Hi, Nash and Mike. I've got a laptop and I make use of the Bluetooth off Bluetooth. What the hell am I talking about? Bluetooth. I can say words. I make use of the Bluetooth often for when I want to play music and for when I want to use my Xbox controller. A few weeks ago, I noticed my music started dropping out until I disconnected and reconnected the speaker. And it would be fine for an hour or so until it started doing it again. Also, when I'm playing games now, my controller just keeps disconnecting for no reason. I disabled the Bluetooth and switched to a USB Bluetooth adapter, and everything started working fine again. My question is, can I replace the Bluetooth in my laptop, or is it wired to the motherboard? I've got a Dell Latitude 7410.
I think that one's wired to the motherboard.
No, it's not.
It's not?
Look it up?
I did look it up, but I couldn't find a good video. Now maybe that was just me.
It's a mini. It's a WLAN M.2 style. Yeah.
See, that's what I get for doing this one at 2 a.m. because I was completely unaware. My brain would not make the connection between WLAN and Bluetooth, which it should have.
Yeah. What we're talking about here in a lot of in most laptops, not every laptop, because some of them are dicks. Most laptops, the easiest way to implement Wi-Fi is a combination Wi-Fi Bluetooth chip, either from Realtek or Intel. It does both at the same time.
And I just realized why I didn't get this is because I did look it up and I went to Dell's site, which is where it has a replacement video for it. And when I clicked on it, it crashed my computer. So I'm not clicking on their video again.
So it's typically these are little, they look like M.2 SSDs. And the slot is very similar. It's not the same, however. It's typically a mini PCIe slot, which is similar, not the same as M.2 NVMe. I know. And also typically, a lot of the times these things fail. I don't know why.
And to back up, where I should have, the Bluetooth part I get you missing. I have replaced this style card on work computers when the Wi-Fi part of it went out. Since we don't use a lot of Bluetooth, that's why the other reason I didn't make the connection.
Yeah. The good news is, yes, you can replace this. The bad news is you're going to have to disassemble your laptop to do it, pretty much. Because
how much you have to disassemble it, it doesn't look like it's too terrible.
You understand,
it looks like it's right next to the battery, so it should be relatively accessible.
The problem with laptop repair as opposed to desktop repairs tends to be fairly standardized. All the parts are made to be removed and replaced, typically, unless you have a proprietary desktop, which is bullcrap. Most desktop parts are made to be interchangeable, removable, swappable, easy to fix, easy to replace, go on about your day. Laptops are all proprietary. They all just come apart their own way. Some of them use screws, which is good. Some of them use snaps, which is less good. So, and by snaps, I mean the plastic is made to snap to click together, which
makes it hard
together.
To take it apart.
But they don't, it doesn't come apart well. Sometimes they use glue, which is the literal worst. Um,
I will say the reason they do this is because snaps and or glue is way easier to put on an assembly line and have fewer humans involved and automate the whole thing and make it cheaper, which increases the profit margin because they certainly didn't lower the prices on things when they did that.
So it's a question of if this always comes up when we talk about repairing laptops. How comfortable are you with attempting to take this apart? You're going to have to try and find a teardown or some instructional.
I will say, looking at now that I know that the WN is also the Bluetooth, it should be fairly straightforward. It is 4 snap-on pin connections. So basically, it's little wires with little sort of pin sockets on them. Pop them off gently. You take off the old card. You put in the new card. You pop them on gently. They're even color-coded to say which one goes where.
Well, yeah, but it's a matter of getting to that card in the first place.
Well, in this case, for this model, it looks like it's pretty straightforward. Like, say you pop off the back cover and it's right there.
Oh, so there's nothing but a back cover.
Yeah.
Okay.
In this case, it's a back cover and a screw.
That's super easy. All right. That sometimes that's at least it's a Latitude. They made it to be.
Well, my guess is because the Latitude is a business class laptop.
Yeah, they made it to be fixed.
They made it to be fixed because, we had these. They rolled out, a site used. I won't say we had the specific model. We had Dell Latitudes. They roll them out to to a site. You get 200, 300, 400 or more to maintain. You want to make the stuff that fails readily easy to replace. So batteries easy to replace on this. WN card looks trivial to replace.
Yeah. There are going to be what the wires Mike is talking about. The wires Mike are talking about. Those are the antenna wires. Typically, the way these work is you have to. They're these little press fit connectors that are used to connect the wire. There are a couple of wires. When we say antennas, they're just wire that are wrapped in a circle around the outside of the screen bezel, and that serves as the antenna, not just for the Bluetooth, but also for the Wi-Fi. The other, so putting those back on is relatively simple. Removing the card is relatively simple. You're going to want to make sure, however, when you look this up, and you can look it up easily. Open up the back of the bottom panel and actually look at the writing on that card. You don't even have to take it out. Just look at the writing on there. Figure out which model it is. I've come to find with laptop Wi-Fi cards, not always, but a lot of the time, they want the exact same one. Even though others will fit in there, they want the same make and or model to work properly. So, it's unfortunate because you could actually upgrade the Wi-Fi in a lot of these older systems. You could put like Wi-Fi 6 and 7 in there if you want, but what holds it back is the system not recognizing that particular Wi-Fi card. So just to be on the safe side, I'd look at the Wi-Fi card in there and make sure whichever one you get is the same one that was in there before. Because otherwise,
now, depending on the model, it's going to be. It looks like it's about $25 to $35.
Not super cheap, but in my mind, super cheap's like $10. But it's easy to swap out. It's a part that fails often. Again, I don't know why. It tends to be the radios in them fail.
I'll tell you what the screwy thing was. The ones I used to replace at work. So I'd have someone come in with a bad Wi-Fi card. And I'd take one of my spare machines that I hadn't sent out in a long time. So it would probably have network issues and require days of patching. And I'd pop the Wi-Fi card out of that one, put it in the other. I put the old Wi-Fi card in that one. I'd mark on the paperwork for that card, maybe bad Wi-Fi card. And then, the cyber office is yelling at me, this thing hasn't been on the network in a long time. You need to patch it. So I throw it on the network, patch it, get it up to date, so get it off the ding list. And I check the Wi-Fi on it, and the Wi-Fi worked fine. I'm like, is the other guy wrong, or did it just want to be in a different computer? I don't know what's going on.
So yeah, but swapping it, I don't know why they fail. They do fail, and if you want to replace it, your best bet is to get the same one as before. All right, let's see. I'm looking up some stuff for the next one here. See here. Just comparing some stuff. Oof. All right. Next question. Hello, guys. I've got a GTX 1070. I'm trying to decide if now's a good time to get a replacement. I'd want something under 300 that's going to be a faster card. I don't know when the new graphics cards are coming, but mine is starting to show its age, and I want to be able to play things like Star Wars Outlaws and such with the options turned up. I've also been thinking about getting a new 1440p monitor now that prices are better. Do you have any suggestions? If we're talking a new GPU, you're pretty much just under 300. Your pretty much only options the RTX 4060. The 7600 XT is comparable in price and very close in performance. But for the money, they're very close in performance. DLSS and frame gen and all those options, ray tracing, are much stronger on the 4060. Now, when you're down at $300 level, you're not going to get the best of the best of the best here.
No. You're probably limited to 8 gigabytes of RAM.
But between the two, the 4060 is going to be the stronger performing card, simply because of DLSS, because of image fidelity. You're going to have to use DLSS to play games like Star Wars Outlaw, which is deep learning super sampling. I finally remember what that stands for. That's a way of putting...
Congratulations.
Yeah, that's a way of putting things at lower resolution up to a higher resolution that still look great, but they're technically running at a lower resolution. Therefore, the frame rate goes up. That's going to be kind of crucial with demanding games like Outlaws and stuff. AMD has FSR, which is a similar application, but it does not look as good. They've tried to make it look as good. It has not looked as good. That's sad to say because I wanted it to be, but you know, if we're talking used, let's see. I think, 3070. Let's see. What's the 3070 Ti looking at right now? Why didn't you do this before the show? Shut up. Let's see, 3070 Ti. Those are close to 300 for a used one, which while it is a generation older, it is technically faster. It's about 25% faster than the 4060, which might be something you want to look at just for price performance wise. As always, we recommend, if you're going to get a used video card, go through a reputable seller with a good rating, something with buyer protection. We always recommend something like eBay. Because, yeah, we're looking at like $320 price range for buy it now for 3070 Ti's. So, yeah, you could likely find a good deal there. Now, the reason I'd say as a time to buy, it is not a good idea to wait for the next generation of graphics cards. The main reason being, both NVIDIA and AMD will not release the affordable card until 6 months or so after they release the unaffordable card. by which
Yep.
I mean
Next year.
the 8800 XT is going to be the highest end that AMD has, and that's presumably going to be in the $400 to $500 price range, maybe higher. And AMD is going to release the 5090 and the 5080, which are going to be in price ranges nobody in their right mind can afford. And then 6 months later, you'll get the 5700 or what? No, the 5080 or not? No, the 5070. Brain and the 5060. Those will come out much later after the 5080. And over on AMD's side, the 8600 XT, that'll come out much later than the 8800 XT. So if you want, you're going to be waiting.
Ash, there's also Battlemage.
You're going to be waiting until middle or end of next year until you see the next generation of graphics cards that you can buy. So right now, a 4070 or a used 3070 Ti would be about your $300 price range. It will quite simply blow the GTX 1070 away because they're effectively obsolete. It's sad to say it was a good generation of cards. It was a good value generation, but
yeah,
compared to the modern ones, it can't hang. So I would lean toward the 3070 Ti just because the 4060 is kind of a little meh. It's got, I mean, yes, it has more modern ray tracing and tensor cores in it. Sure, it's got a newer generation. Sure, you're not going to be able to use them very much at that level, not without DLSS or something. So the 3070 Ti overall power faster with how DLSS 3. The only thing I think you're going to be missing with the 3070 as opposed to the 4060 is frame generation. Now, I don't know if AMD has separated the two out yet, but they offer a open source frame generation that anyone can use. And I don't know if you can use their frame generation, AMD's frame generation with NVIDIA's DLSS. I don't know if those combine. Frame generation comes in handy, but only when we're talking if you have a frame rate way above 60 frames per second. I've been messing around a little bit with it with Starfield. What frame generation is it uses machine learning to guess at what a frame would look like. And because the frames go by so fast, sometimes it's able to slot one in. And because it's able to make a fake frame that's not technically part of the game, it tricks your eyes into thinking the frame rate's running a lot faster and it looks smoother and it runs better. I've been able to get Starfield on a 4K monitor with a 4080 up to 150 frames per second with frame generation and DLSS and all that other stuff. It looks really good. That may come in handy for stuff like Star Wars Outlaws, but only if you're able to if you get it running lower, like 60 frames per second with frame generation, then you notice the fake frames because there are less frames overall. And then you notice the fake ones and they look really bad. The only way frame generation really works is if you've already got it up high, then it helps smooth it out. So if you've already managed to get it to 90 to close to that, you'll have to decide how much that's going to matter to you. The 4060 is going to have frame generation, but it's going to be about 25% overall slower. 3070 Ti will not have frame gen, but it will still have DLSS. So it's up to you how you want to handle that. Why doesn't the 3070 have frame generation? Fuck you. That's why. That's why. So anyway. One last one came in, and this one's a head scratcher for us. This is from CSB. One, used to play DVDs with VLC Media Player all the time on my Windows 10. Now, even after multiple attempts at reinstalling, it's a total crapshoot. It's so memory intensive or something. that VLC lags the whole way through it. Generally, I have a window to tell it to play what I want, and it will technically do so, but I have to be quick or else it will lag and I can't interact with the video, i.e. can't pause if I have to leave. Only other option is Power Media Player, and it easily lags with the tiniest interaction. What should I do to resolve this VLC issue? Or bearing this, what other software could I use that would be cheap to free? Something's wrong with your system.
Okay, so I've come up with possible two things you can try here. The first is disabling hardware encoding in VLC. And according to Reddit, this fixed lots of people having issues with versions of VLC after 3.0.0. 3.0.0 was apparently a gold version of VLC, and everything after has had issues. So disable hardware coding in VLC, open the media player, go to Tools, Preferences, bottom left corner under Show Settings, select All. Select the input, and then click Video Codecs, FFmpeg. Scroll down to Hardware Decoding, set it to disable, click Save. That may solve this. It solved this for apparently many of the people in the thread, but not all of them.
Yeah, you don't need hardware decoding with DVD because it's trivial. DVDs are trivial to play, and it might be causing conflicts. It might be screwing things up. There should be no memory overhead or anything with VLC. It is about VLC playing a DVD player. Playing a DVD is like, it's nothing. It's like a freaking cotton puff. That's how much weight it puts on the system.
Yeah.
So even a 10-year-old
unless you've got a truly ancient system.
Yeah.
Now,
so
the other option is that if you have an NVIDIA card, NVIDIA is famous for turning on options that you don't want, but not telling you about them. For example, periodically, I will get a NVIDIA driver update that says, no, I'm your default sound card now. And suddenly my sound doesn't come out anywhere because there's nothing connected to sound on the video card.
Yeah.
So in the NVIDIA control panel, not the GeForce Experience, open that up and go to the video section and select Adjust Video Image Settings. On the bottom right, there'll be an RTX video enhancement. Uncheck Super Resolution. You may need to reboot.
And hopefully that fixes it for you. The other one is minor follow-up. I have an external disk reader, functioned well for me for over a decade. I can't find a program that will let it function plugged into my phone, Android from 2.5 years ago. Is there any? I'm going to say no. While it is possible to use USB devices with your Android phone, there is a protocol that allows it to work. Like, for example, you could get an adapter or just a straight up USB-C flash drive for USB and plug it into your phone, and it'll work as an external drive. You just plug it right in and it works. So there are some devices that will work with phones across USB. The trouble here is I don't think drivers have been coded for a disk drive for Android. Linux, sure, but
I'll say this. I'm looking this up right now because I missed there was a second part of the question.
Yeah.
And there's apparently a VLC for Android that may do it.
Does it? Well, that's playback software, but we're talking about hardware drivers. Does Android even include disk drive drivers? That's the thing. I don't think it does. I don't think Android has that. I don't think it's part of its tool set. That might exist, but you'd be talking about a custom ROM to do that. I'm pretty sure it's like if in Windows, if you plug in a device and there are no drivers for it, the Windows is like, I don't know what the fuck this thing is. What am I supposed to do with this? Do you have drivers? No, I ain't doing shit with it.
I mean, it will recognize a keyboard pretty handily, but a keyboard is very simple in comparison.
Yeah, and then it's. I'm trying to think of the other applications. It's a question of Android put into other devices like set-top boxes and cars and whatnot, and I'm not sure there is a DVD drive or a disk drive. You know, someone can correct me. I could be wrong on this. It's just I don't think Android has ever been, or at least maybe it's even still included with your whichever version of it you got with your phone. I'm not sure it's capable of even doing anything with the disk drive because technically disk drives are obsolete. Any kind of optical drive and all the rest of it, they're technically they're obsolete. I could be wrong, but I do know if you can get, yeah, well, I say there's a Linux phone and you could run Linux on a phone, but you'd have to do some alterations to your phone and you probably wouldn't want to do that to get Linux to run on there. So probably, I guess the answer is no, it's not going to work. Sorry. I'm pretty sure it's not. It's not something I've ever experimented with myself because I've never felt
I've never needed to. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm pretty sure that they haven't felt the need to install.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you the reason I haven't experimented is because it's been 6 months since I pulled the DVD player out of the closet.
Yeah, I mean,
and that was to rip some music to the computer.
Yeah. You'd be better off, honestly, just using Handbrake to rip the DVD into a file and then just transferring the file. What?
If it'll rip.
If it'll rip, yeah. And then just transferring the file over to your phone. That would, because otherwise, there's probably no other way it can see it. All right, I think that's everything for tonight. Let me see. Quick. Oh, here we go. Fast one. This is from Adam. Just picked up a 3DS for cheap. Yay. I've been trying to find ways to work around the internet services turned off. Any tips? Any help be appreciated. Again, this is another one of those issues. Obviously, Nintendo has disabled the shop for the 3DS and the online functions for the 3DS because they don't want you to buy it. They want you to buy a Switch and crap. So trying to get around the internet stuff that's been turned off is tricky. This would probably be one of those instances where you would have to do some goofing around with custom ROMs or hacking or some way to trick the device. And it's not as simple as a setting. It would be more like you're going to have to go down a rabbit hole to find a way to jailbreak the 3DS. Right now here, I'm not sure. This would be kind of a research thing to go into it, but I'm pretty sure there's no quick way to do this. Nintendo is notorious for making it hard to do things like this, even on hardware they don't support anymore because they don't
because they want you to buy the new stuff.
Yeah, and not only that, it's even with the older devices that they're all like, no, we don't want you to play those anymore. We want you to buy a new version of those games because fuck you. So I'm pretty sure the internet stuff, you're kind of out of luck there. Unless you could find, I don't think there is a quick and easy way of doing this. If there was a quick way of an easy way of doing this, Nintendo would have sued whoever came up with it. They would have sued them until they stopped existing. They would have gone back in time and sued their ancestors so they didn't have you. That's how much Nintendo would have sued.
They probably already did.
Yeah. So
how would we know?
Adam, I wish I had a better answer, but that typically is how Nintendo handles things. All right, that is going to do it for this week. We will be back next Saturday, 9 p.m. Eastern. unless another hurricane knocks out all the internet. And meanwhile, for my mic, in the meanwhile, for Mike and myself, we'll see you next time. Good night.